Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we're going to add a resource system to our game. This is going to be something our user has to manage, keep track of, and leverage to find success in our game. And it's going to come in the form of maneuvers or turns. So we're going to limit the amount of turns the player can make when they leave the safe zone and try to start capturing territory. In our last video, they could make, I think, as many turns as they wanted to, and it caused for some weird shapes when we tried to capture our territories. So in this video, we're going to fix that and implement this new system. So let's head to our computer screen and we'll dive right in. I've got lesson 4's resource system lesson open here, our starter file in vscode.dev. I'm just going to minimize my browser and we're going to open this file directly. So I'm going to come over to my desktop, Territory Rush, lesson 4, and I'll open the starter file. So let's see what we've got here. So right off the bat, it looks like I've got some new information in the HUD. I've got maneuvers remaining, 3, and then it sort of looks like I got territory, and then I'm not sure what's going to go here. I'm thinking it might be some sort of like status bar of some kind. So let's get out of the safe zone and let's go capture a territory. And I'm going to make 3 turns. So I'm going to leave and I'm going to be moving in a straight line, and then I'm going to turn to go up. I'm going to turn to go right. And then I'm going to turn to come down. And those 3 turns are going to force me to make a rectangular shape. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And I captured that rectangle. But if you notice, the number of maneuvers never updated. So let's try it again. 1, 2, 3 turns, and no change there. In fact, I can make as many turns as I want right now. See? So this system is not yet in effect. So we got to fix that. We have to limit those number of turns and make it a resource system. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at mission number 1, which says add the turn system constants. Anytime we find ourselves adding a brand new system to our game, we're going to want to add constants that are going to act as like knobs or dials for that system. So we can tune them. We can turn them up, we can turn them down, and by changing those values, we're going to change how that system fits into our game, how it looks, how it plays, how it feels. And these are always going to happen in our student edit zone. So if I scroll down here, we have the values for our turn system. So let's see, it says add the turn system constants. Define the maximum number of allowed turns in captured percent. All right, so right now the maximum number of turns is set to 0. I don't think that's right. I'm going to set it to 3. So I'm going to say, hey, at most we're going to have 3 turns. Perfect. And then our capture goal percent. So I essentially got to capture a certain amount of these territories to reach my goal. I could make it 100, but I think you saw in the last video, I struggled mightily to get 100% of the territory. Like there was like this one little square in the corners that I couldn't get. So I'm going to make our capture goal, I'm going to set it to 80%. So if we capture 80% of the cells that are out there in our grid, we're going to consider that a victory for us. All right, and let's go see what else we have now that we have those system constants set here. It looks like I've got a capture bar BG color. So a new color in my color palette, which is 255 in the red, 255 in the green, 255 in the blue. That is white with an alpha channel of 0.25. So a very transparent white. And so this capture bar BG color does make me think that we are eventually going to get like a capture bar up here in our HUD that we will fill in. Lastly, let's go look at our gameplay variables. So our gameplay variables, it looks like we are only adding one new variable, and that is turns remaining. So how many turns we have remaining, and it is currently set to 0. All right, so now let's go look at mission number 2. Mission number 2 says we have to reset our turns. So this finds us in the reset player function. Reset turns at the start of the game, set turns remaining to its maximum value. All right, so if we look here, when we reset our game to defaults, we reset a lot of stuff here. We reset like our capture grid, our safe zone. We are calling a new function called update captured percent, and then we're calling a function reset player. So whenever we reset the player, and we do this a lot, we do it at the start of a game, so I just reset my player. But we also do it when we go out of bounds. So if I go out of bounds, I reset my player here. So what I'm doing is I'm repositioning the player. I'm setting their dx and dy properties equal to 0, so that means they're not moving. We set our capture trail to nothing, and we set is capturing to false, so we empty out our capturing system. And now we want to make sure that we reset the number of turns that the player has. So we're going to target that variable that we just saw, turns remaining, and we're going to assign it max turns, the maximum number of turns that we are going to allow, which in our case is 3. So with that, mission number 1 is done. Mission number 2 is done. Our turn system is coming along nicely. And so mission number 3 says we got to display the turns remaining in the HUD. Show the current maneuver value to the player. If you look right now, it says that we are displaying some text. Maneuvers remaining 3. Well, right now, we are always showing the number 3, even if I make a turn. So even if I turn, it's still showing 3 here. So that's not really what we want to have happen. And the reason why that's happening is because we have hard-coded that value of 3. We don't want it to always show the number 3. We want it to have a variable's value. So what we're going to do is we're going to show the text, maneuvers remaining, and then we are going to add the variable turns remaining. And I'll do a tab for autocomplete here. Okay, so I think that that is going to fix our text. So let's check this out. Let's go look at our HUD. So in my HUD here, I have maneuvers remaining 3. All right, and that makes sense because when we start our game, we start at 3. And let's see what happens now. No change at all. So even though we are saying use the value of this variable, we might not be updating that variable. In fact, let's go back to mission number 2 and let's set turns remaining to, I don't know, I'm going to set it to 9. If I set it to 9 when I refresh my game, you can now see in the HUD it says maneuvers remaining 9. So it is updating in real time. It's just not updating correctly. We are not doing what we need to do to update the value of the turns remaining variable. So maybe that's where mission 4 is going to take us. So let's head to mission number 4. All right, mission 4 says allow direction changes based on capture rules. Okay, let's go see where this finds us. So this finds us in the update player function. So we get our input direction by and store it in a variable called move direction. Let's just go review that. So if I go to get input direction, this is going to return what direction we want to move in. So dx and dy are either going to be 0, -1, or +1, and we return dx and dy. That's the direction that we have just pressed. It's the direction we want to move in. And we're going to use those here in update player for mission number 4. So we ask ourselves, okay, we have the move direction. So this has a dx and dy value. It says if a movement key is pressed, store the direction in the player. So as long as dx, move direction dx, is not equal to 0, or move direction dy is not equal to 0. That means we have pressed a key. So dx is not 0. It means it's either going to be +1 or -1. We're moving to the right or the left. Or dy is not equal to 0. It's either going to be +1 or -1. If we are not capturing, then we are in the safe zone, and we're going to allow all directional changes. So we're just going to say, hey, if we're not capturing, that means we are in the safe zone right here. We should be able to move as much as we want inside of the safe zone. It's only once we leave the safe zone that we're going to have to take this into account. So we're going to store, if we're not capturing, we're going to take the direction that we want to move in and automatically make it the player's dx value and make it the player's dy value. Otherwise, we got a bit of work that we want to do. And this is where mission 4 finds us. So this is going to be a bit complicated, but essentially we want to make sure that we only turn 90 degrees during the capture. Meaning, if I'm moving to the right, I should only be able to move, let's see, if I'm moving to the right, I should only be able to move up, which is a 90-degree turn one way, or down, which is a 90-degree turn to the other way. I shouldn't be able to be moving to the right and then automatically switch directions and go backwards. We are going to try to prevent that. If I'm moving up, I should be able to move 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right, but I should not be able to switch going straight down. And so how do we determine that? Well, I think what we're going to do here is we're going to create a variable called perpendicular turn. The turn is perpendicular if it is at 90 degrees. All right, so that's the term here. And we're going to write this out, and then we will explain it with a little bit of help from the whiteboard. So I'm going to say, we're going to ask a question, and we're going to check to see what the value of this statement is. So I'm going to do move direction .dx. I'm going to get the move direction.dx. This is the direction that we just pressed on our keyboard, and I'm going to multiply it by player.dx, which is the direction the player is moving. And then I'm going to add to that value move direction.dy, which is the direction that we just pressed on our keyboard in the y direction, either up or down. And I'm going to multiply that by player.dy, the current vertical direction that the player is moving. And I'm going to check to see if this whole thing is equal to 0. And if this whole thing is equal to 0, then that means we have done a perpendicular turn. And that is a really, really great thing. It means we can make that turn. So let's go, I'm going to pull up a whiteboard here, and we're going to look at how this works. Okay, so here is my whiteboard. And I think to help us, I'm just going to do a few abbreviations. I'm going to make a little key for us. So I'm going to say m.dx and m.dy, those are our keyboard presses. So that's like up and down, left and right. And then I'll say p.dx and p.dy, that is the direction the player is already moving. So let's look at an example of how we might sort of apply this. Let's assume our player is moving to the right. All right. So if we are moving to the right, what does that tell us about the player's motion? Well, that tells me that p.dx is going to be equal to +1 and p.dy is going to equal 0. We're not moving vertically at all. And then let's assume that I want to change my direction. Let's say I press the down arrow key. So I press the down arrow key, which is going to cause my player to start moving down. So we're going to want to move this way. So I press down. If I press down on the arrow key, so I'll say press down. We press the down key. If I press down on the arrow key, then m.dx is 0 because I didn't press a horizontal key, and m.dy would equal 1, indicating that I want to go down. And so let's look at the math that we have right in here in our check for a perpendicular turn. I have move direction.dx, so that's going to be m.dx times p.dx plus m.dy plus p.dy. So m.dx is 0. 0 times p.dx is 1 plus m.dy, which is 1, plus p.dy, which is 0. This gives me 0 plus 0, which is 0. And if we look, 0 equals 0, that is true. So perpendicular turn is going to be true. That means we made a valid turn. And we could do this again. We could do another example, but let's look at what like a non-valid turn would look like. So now let's do a non-valid turn. So I'm just going to come over here and we'll grab a different color. So now imagine I'm moving, let's say I'm moving down. Okay, I'm moving down. So if I'm moving down, let's see. p.dx is 0 because the player is not moving down, and p.dy is going to equal 1. And then let's assume I press the up key. So if I press the up key, I want to essentially, I'm going to try to make the player like do a complete flip. I'm going to try to make them move, this way. That is not allowed. That is not perpendicular. See, over here, these are perpendicular because they form a 90-degree angle. This is not perpendicular. There is no 90-degree angle here. So if I press the up key, well, that means m.dx is still 0, but m.dy, pressing the up key, would be equal to -1, indicating that I want to go up. And so now if I look at the math that I have here on my screen for a check for a perpendicular turn, I would have m.dx times p.dx plus m.dy times p.dy. All right, and so let's plug it in. m.dx is 0 times p.dx of 0 plus m.dy, which is 1, times negative 1, plus p.dy, which is positive 1. Well, that gives me 0 plus negative 1, which is negative 1. That is not equal to 0. So if you look here, negative 1 does not equal 0. That tells me that this was not a perpendicular turn. It is not allowed. So that math there is really kind of nice and for us to have a way to check that we have made a perpendicular turn. And this is known as a dot product. All right, so a dot product. So that's kind of a high level. You don't need to know anything about a dot product, but maybe one day that term will come up. This is when two direction vectors are, or two direction arrows are perpendicular. They're 90 degrees apart when their dot product is equal to 0. And that's exactly what we did right here. So mission 4, we are set. We now know when we can make a turn. So what we're going to do is we are going to implement our turn limit. So it says prevent turning when there are no turns. For each turn, reduce the number of turns remaining. So it says if. We are now asking a question. Can we actually turn? We're using and. So we're going to ask a question that has two parts. The first part is perpendicular turn. So is this value true or false? If it is true, it means we're making a perpendicular turn. It's valid. If it's false, then we can't make that turn. And then we just have and 1 greater than 0. Well, 1 is always greater than 0. That is always going to be true. So I'm not a fan of that statement. Let's just check the perpendicular turn. Can I actually, let's see if it, so I can make perpendicular turns. There's a perpendicular turn. There's a perpendicular turn. I'm going to go down. And can I go right up? I spammed the up key. I'm spamming up right now, and it's not turning. So that's perfect. It's preventing me from making that non-perpendicular turn. So that's working really good. But this part right here is driving me a little bonkers. 1 is always greater than 0. So I'm always going to be able to make a turn. So what I'm going to do is change 1 and see if my turns remaining variable is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0 and the move that I'm trying to do is a perpendicular turn, I'm going to update the player's dx by making it the move direction dx. I'm going to update the player's dy by making it our move direction dy. And then right here, this is our last sticking point, that turns remaining variable, I don't want to subtract 0. I'm going to subtract 1 from it. So now let's test this system. So right now, all right, turns remaining is 2, 1, 0. Perfect. Oh no, but then I don't get any back. So if I run out, I don't get them back until I respawn. See, I'm still going. And now, oh, and I can turn inside of my safe zone. But once I get out of the safe zone, I'm stuck. So if we look, that's great. But now once I get out there, I can't turn anymore. So we somehow have to like replenish the turn system when we go back into that safe zone. We somehow have to get those turns back. So let's go see what mission 6 has us working on here. And look at that. Mission 6 is all about restoring our turns. It says restore turns when returning to the safe zone. This readies players for their next run. Where does this find us? This finds us in... Okay, this finds us in update territory. So this is where we were going to figure out if we were leaving to go capture, if we were capturing more and more, or if we were ending our run. So the moment we end our run, we're now done. We've ended our run. We have to restore our turns. So that turns remaining variable, which we were decreasing by 1, by 1, by 1, I'm going to set it back to its maximum amount. And that is my variable max turns. Okay, let's test that out. Do we get our max turns back? So I'm going to make a nice rectangle here, capture some big old territory. Oh no, I messed up. I ran out of turns. Let me try that again. So here's 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. And right now you could see that my turn system regenerated. So perfect. As soon as I capture a territory and I find myself back in my safe zone, which is getting bigger and bigger, I get my turns back. Now, when I'm in the safe zone, it doesn't matter what kind of turns I make. I can do anything inside of the safe zone. So inside of the safe zone, that's kind of nice. We programmed that such that if we were in the safe zone, anything flies. But once we're outside of the safe zone, we have to do 3 specific turns. Now, when am I going to say, enough is enough? How much more can I capture? Well, I kind of need to figure that out. If I look, hey, oh, come on. It's because I I died right there. That's all right. So now mission number 7 is going to tell us to do what? Well, it says we are going to draw a capture bar background. Okay. Well, there's something interesting here at the end of mission 6. See, at the end of mission 6, once we're done capturing everything, we call update capture percent. I want to just go look at that. So I'm going to highlight it and hit Control F to put it in my search bar. And then I'm going to go to update captured percent. Update captured percent. All right, here it is. So if you look here, this is where we're determining what percentage of the territories we have captured. And so now we're going to use that percent here in mission number 7. Mission number 7 says we are going to draw a capture bar. And this is coming right in the HUD. So after we draw our HUD, we put our text up there, we're going to call this function draw capture bar. And we're going to draw a status bar up here showing what percentage of the territories have been captured. And we have a few variables here that are just here for positioning. So bar width, bar height, bar X, bar Y, and then goal X, which is the amount that we need to actually capture. And if you look, it's right here, capture goal percent, right? It's taking that 80% into account. We put a little text on here saying, territory, the amount we've captured, but now we want to draw a capture bar. So it says create the base shape for the territory display. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to get rid of this text color because I don't want that text color in my paint bucket. So I'm going to say fill. And I believe we saw a color in our color palette that was called Capture Bar. There it is. Capture Bar BG color. We're going to load that paint up. And now we are going to draw a rectangle. So I'm going to call the rect function. The rect function needs 4 pieces of information. The X coordinate and the Y coordinate of the top left corner. And those are going to be these variables that I have right here, bar X and bar Y. So I'll type bar X. And these are just position variables that I created, bar Y. And then we need the width of the bar and the height of the bar. And so those are going to be these variables that I've set for us right here in this function, bar width and bar height. Bar width, bar height. Tab for autocomplete. All right, so if we run this now, we should see that bar present. Hey, look at that. And our capture line, it looks like that line is like at 80% of the territory. That's exactly where I wanted it to go. So this looks really nice. Now, the one thing I don't like is these edges are a little bit too straight for me. I would like them a little more curved, and we can get that by passing an optional piece of information into the rect function. We can pass a 5th argument here, and that is going to be some number that represents how much curving we are going to do on the edges. So I'm going to pass in a 6. And when I do that, it curves or rounds those edges exactly like I want. So that looks really quite good. Now, as I capture more and more territory, I would like this bar to begin filling up. And right now, it's not filling up at all. So that's a huge bummer. So we got to look at mission number 8. So mission 8 finds us in that exact same function, draw a capture bar. It's right below where we were. It says, draw the capture bar fill. Scale the fill based on the current capture percent. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put a new paint color in my paint bucket. So fill, and I am going to use the territory color that I have. So that territory color is that sort of green color for me right now. All right, so we're going to use that color. Perfect, there it is. And now we are going to draw, let's just draw a brand new rect. All right, and this rectangle is going to sit directly over this bar. So it's going to sit directly over this bar. If I'm at 50%, we'll fill it 50% of the way. If I'm at 70%, we'll fill it 70% of the way. If it were at 100%, we'd fill it 100% of the way. Let's just fill it 100% of the way. And the way we're going to do that is make it the exact same rectangle we had before. So bar X, bar Y, bar width, bar height, and then a rounding of 6. Let's do that. Let's test that out. So if I refresh that, hey, that's what it's going to look like if we have captured 100% of our territory. There's only one problem. We have not yet captured 100% of our territory. That's very challenging to do. You've seen me fail at it a bunch of times. So what we need to do is we need to change the width of this bar, this second bar that's being drawn on top. So there's a handful of ways we can do it. I'm going to multiply by 0.5. Let's multiply by 0.5. So now we're going to get half of that bar's width. All right, and so that looks pretty good right there. That looks great in the HUD. But, multiplying by a half is essentially the same as multiplying by some fraction, like 10 divided by 20. So 10 over 20 is 0.5. You have a half. And so you notice that the bar's position did not change at all. And now that we have it written as a fraction like this, let's think about this. I can change the numerator. I can decrease it. 5 out of 10. All right, that changed. 2 out of 10. All right, it keeps changing. I can increase it. 16 out of 20. What did I say? 2 out of 10? I'm sorry, 2 out of 20. 16 out of 20. Hey, that puts me like right here at my line. In this fraction, we have a value that we are constantly changing and then some maximum value that we're working out of. So what we're going to do is we are going to say, hey, the maximum value that we're working out of is 100 because you can have 100% of your grid captured. And then the numerator is how much we have captured, and that is in a variable that we looked at just previously called captured percent. We are calculating it every time we update the amount of territories that we captured. So now if I refresh the page, let's take a look. All right, so it currently shows that I have a little bit captured. I do. I have this little tiny safe zone. Let's go out and capture something. It should increase, and it does. All right, let's go grab a big territory. Oh, I messed up. I ran out of turns. I did not leverage my maneuvers correctly. All right, and there's a big jump, and we can keep going. All right, there's a big jump. Are we at the 80% yet? I think we are pretty close. If we're not there, we're going to be there right now. And so right now you can see we have surpassed the 80% goal. And so now the next question is, what do we do once we surpass that 80% goal? Well, for right now, our turn system, our resource management system, this lesson is complete. We did a great job, but we have to answer that question. What are we going to do when we get to this goal point? And we'll answer that coming up in our next video. So I can't wait to see you in that next lesson.